Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for joining me. We're about 15 minutes into 7-gram albino penis envy experience this evening. Right now, it is approximately 12:06 a.m. Sunday, May 17th. So I'm just starting to feel the effects. It's very gentle, it's in the background. I prefer dosing with the tea because it kicks in substantially harder and faster, and I think the overall experience is a little more cohesive, stronger but cohesive. More impactful even. Right now I'm sitting, well actually I'm perched kind of, as I do kind of think like the way a baseball catcher would sit, like that. And I'm on a yoga mat in my living room. All the lights in the house are off. Got the windows open. Front door is open, and I've got a screen door in there. I've got an enclosed porch on the front of my house, and it's a beautiful night outside. You can hear the crickets and frogs. Right now I've got Brian Eno playing on the speakers. That kind of a gentle waterfall, very subtly in the background. Probably about 20 minutes in now. I very much prefer the pure psilocybin mushroom experience as opposed to combinatory experiences. My last big trip was Silawaska, where you mix an MAOI in with the mushrooms, and I didn't much care for that. I didn't like the way that the Syrian rue kind of muted a lot of the more beautiful aspects and overtones of the psilocybin. But it did take the intensity of a 5-gram experience and turned it into something more like a 25-gram experience with regard to how physically intoxicating it can become. I'm very much looking forward to this experience this evening. It's always nice when I can come into a trip with more of an excited nature as opposed to fear. And I've come into them both ways, but I always find it's so nice to have like a childlike mindset or outlook on doing this, you know. Because the question then becomes, if I'm scared of doing it, then why am I doing it? Like, I mean, there, to some degree, there's always going to be fear. I started recording these experiences because there's a lot of peculiar things that can happen while you're in this state. Probably about 25 minutes in now. Starting to feel it very heavily. It's coming on very strong now. Yeah, when you powderize the mushroom, it's going to increase. I'm sorry, not increase. It's going to expedite the entire experience for the most part. It takes what normally would be like a 4 to 6 hour trip and turns it into like I'd say a 3 or 4 hour trip. The body buzz is really starting to increase now. Visuals are starting very, very gently. I have my eyes open and I can just barely see some evening light coming in through the front screen door and kind of just gently bouncing off the floor. I find that as I'm coming up, it really helps to breathe. Breathing, chanting, even singing, stretching, yogic-like movements very much helps with a lot of the uncomfortability that you can experience and go through in the first, I would say specifically 15, 20 to, I don't know, 45, 50 minutes. Because the opening act, the uncomfortability can hang around for a little while. longer than you may prefer. Right now I'm perched on both my feet, and I have my head between my legs, sort of. It's just resting on both the tops of both my knees. And I'm just looking down at the floor. This is one of my favorite positions to sit in when I trip. Eventually the floor will disappear. The floor will disappear and you'll see all sorts of interesting things. Since the mat that I'm on, the yoga mat I'm currently on right now is black. It's dark. It eventually in the darkness it's like you're just floating and nothingness. It's pretty wild. But it is actually starting to get a bit chilly in here, so I'm going to go and grab a hoodie out of my closet. It's a little chilly in here. I did just take an ice cold shower before. Actually, well, so I dosed, and then I hopped in the shower real quick. Ice cold shower. It felt amazing. And I have not had a cold shower. It's been a while. It has been a while since I've had a cold shower, so that was nice. Visuals are starting to kick in now, very lightly. Everything's just kind of sort of gently starting to introduce me to the experience. Starting to see just it's hard to describe. It's not like hieroglyphics, but it's symbols, you know, but there's no way of decoding it. It's just moving gently across the floor. Very beautiful night, very beautiful evening here in mid-May. The weather has been kind of cold lately, last few days, so this has been nice. Beautiful spring day. I don't know the exact phase of the moon this evening, but it's almost non-existent. It's very dark. And, you know, I can go either way on that, you know, depending on moods and whatnot. I mean, there's nothing like looking at a big, beautiful full moon, but at the same time, it's also nice to have the darkness, be able to see more of the night sky. So starting to hit me pretty good, pretty well. I'm still perched on the floor like in a catcher's position. I find that the darker the room is, the more available the visions are. To the point where when you're in complete darkness, it kind of, I mean, the total, you know, your dissolution of the body dissolves and you can't see yourself anymore. Visuals are starting to kick in pretty good now. Lots of beautiful geometry, and there's not really much color to it yet. Rather, I find that when I do it in a dark room, it's almost kind of like a dark purplish, like dark red burgundy-ish. Maybe even hints of pinks and oranges and things like that against the black silhouette. I mean, to be fair, I think there's a little, you know, there's a little bit of every color in the visions, but it's not as rainbow-esque. It's hard to describe. And that's also why I prefer the room to be so dark, because it provides you with what would normally be closed-eye visuals. You have to close your eyes to get to see these visions. And when you're in a room so dark, or as dark as you can make it, the visions just they really they pop. The best way. It's like it's like a 3D thing, right? Like it's visuals are kicking in pretty good now. It's been a while actually since I've had a dose in this neighborhood. And it's nice because, I mean, I'm really learning to love and appreciate just kind of the whole spectrum of it, of dosing, everything from the microdose all the way to the super heroic godlike doses. But yeah, no, I think the last time I had a 7-gram trip, honestly, was probably, it's been a few years. It was actually my first foray into heavy dose, because I skipped over 5 grams. I skipped over 5, and I went right to 7. And I was very comfortable with that decision. The come up was a little rough for that experience, but overall, it was it was a wonderful experience and a wonderful introduction to this entire thing. So now at this point, I'm just about through the onset, and a lot of the more, I guess I should, the more unpleasant effects is what I guess I should say. The onset still continues, and it still will continue to get a little bit stronger, but a lot of for me anyway, the more anxiety-inducing moments, a lot of the jitters occur as I'm dosing, that first 10-15 minutes. It's just a very nerve-wracking thing. You really have to kind of psych yourself up to do it. That's why I'll mix a cold shower and usually just pre-dose, because it just, it's kind of like a battle cry or something. I'm now going to sit down on the floor because my ankles and feet are getting tired. It's nice and calm and still outside. What I will say about these experiences is that there's like a lifelong there's no, it leaves such an imprint that I don't know. It takes a minute to slip back into it and remember it, but it's very familiar. I definitely experienced that with LSD, which is why I couldn't take LSD anymore because I felt like I had to amplify the dose to such a degree to continue getting desired effects because I would like figure it out, right? Like a lot of the physiological side effects and stuff were still present. You can't really avoid those, but and there were really spectacular closed eye visuals, but there were, I don't know, it's hard to explain. I needed something a little deeper that was harder to figure out. It's not really the term or phrase I'm looking for, but I can't really think of anything else. Like a familiarity that you develop with the experience, right? It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Can tell at this point my vision's considerably you get like trails, you know. You never really, the idea is you never move fast enough for it to be a problem. But there's and it's not even necessarily trails. There's just kind of a weird, like I guess a breathing effect that everything starts to take. You know, and that's why I like nighttime. I prefer nights, tripping at night, because I mean it is an amazing thing to see, like the phenomenon, right? The phenomena of the world and the way it interacts with this entire experience and with your mind and what's happening. But yeah, I prefer the night for the visions. And the tenderness too, the evening, you know. The sun is beautiful and it feels wonderful, but it's harsh, right? I love sunlight, I love daylight. But the night, when the veil is thin, I'm a sensitive person anyway. The night has always been more conducive to my, I don't know, I'll call it my nature, but the body buzz, which I guess I haven't really described up to this point. Although it is one of the last things that becomes really apparent and noticeable. And I guess it's all kind of a, I don't know, it all kind of comes together at sort of the same time with the body buzz. It's beautiful. I found that there's no other drug or substance, at least that I'm aware of, that provides the buzz. It's more like a vibrating, you know, like a humming, and it becomes more and more intense. Right now I'm kind of like in a kneeling position. I really like this pose too for when I trip. at higher doses, it almost becomes a necessity. The experience kind of forces you into it. You're like pushed down by this cosmic force, and it holds you there. I spent on my most recent Silowaska experience, I spent 3 hours just on my knees with my head below my waistline, or my hip line, lower than. So I was just kind of in that prayer position. And there were moments where I would, I would kind of lift my head up and attempt to. But it was so powerful. And to lay on your side or your back, it just, on your knees in this prayer position, I understand how it came, like, why it's this holy position, right? Like, why people pray like this. I think a lot of it is just simple intuition, but I think these plant medicines have something to do with it as well. Now, what I will say, I want to comment on, now I don't know if this has to do with potential degradation of the psilocybin into psilocin, or if it's, again, just like familiarity with it, but the visuals, while very present, they're not extremely vibrant, I guess I should say. They're not terribly vibrant. And I've noticed, I've seen this before when taking older LSD, like that I had gotten, and then it had sat, for, I don't know, 8 months or something like that. I kept closed in a book. No refrigeration or anything like that. Just kept it on a shelf, and so I had done it, like the day I got it, and then 8 months later, and I had noted that 8 months later it just like had lost this punch to it. It lost this oomph, right? It's kind of what I'm feeling here a little bit. Like it's there. It's very present. It's there, and I can see it, and I can feel it. But then again, I don't know. It's hard to say, because I've had doses in the mid-20s, so, and I don't know. Again, you do figure the experience out to some degree. But still feeling very wonderful right now, feeling very good. Just kind of kneeling on the floor. This experience this evening is kind of just in reflection of a lot of things. A lot of things. I recently started a new career path, working for a very large cannabis grow room, and it's kind of like my dream job. So it's super cool to be able to do that in a professional capacity and make people happy. It's a beautiful feeling. It's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful to be around plants all day. It really is. The environment, the HVAC system inside there, so the air is always clean. It just gently smells of earth. Good group of people too. Good group of people work there. They're all very passionate. A little bit of stomach discomfort, especially if you find yourself. Oh yes, yes. This is a beautiful thing. At this point, I'm switching over to closed eye visuals. Kind of just seeing like, looks like butterfly wings, you know? Like a whole room of them. Very kind of butterfly kaleidoscopic imagery. And yeah, that is something I'm kind of discovering with age. And the more that I do this, that the fresher the mushrooms, you know. I mean, of course, after they're dried, but the sooner that you consume them, the more vibrant and overwhelming the experience is. I think there's just a lot more intact. You know, the average person may not notice, but I am a stickler for stuff like that too. And I've done this enough times to pick up on stuff like that, nuances, and that's why I do this. That's why I do this. I mean, amongst a lot of other things, a lot of other reasons, I guess, but there's a lot of times I don't know why I do this. You know, I think this part of me is just, it's beautiful. You know, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to behold. I feel very lucky that I can do this. That I can take these substances at these doses and just be a conduit for something greater. It's beautiful. It's pleasurable. I just have this Brian Eno. The title of the track is called Hannah. I just have it looping. It's about a 15-minute song. And I put some water sounds in the background just gently. And it just loops. I love loops. Everything's a loop. I love loops. This fractal nature of life, you know, this fractal nature of all things is beautiful. Time and space. Life feels amazing. Life feels so good. And then that's kind of, I don't know, there's definitely this core theme or narrative inside the experience. And it becomes really evident at higher doses, but how do I understand the reason for being. I understand that moment of like something coming from nothing, right? Like popping into being because being feels good. Being feels wonderful. I think that's kind of, I don't know, maybe what the oneness is. You know, it's just, I can't even call it's not an idea. It's just, I think that's even kind of reaching back. That's what the Tao is, you know, or what's called Tao. Just this nothingness. And in the Tao, you know, this is, for lack of a better word, I call it the Tao. It's this thing. It's this force, and it flows through all things, inside and outside. Kind of perching back up on my yoga mat again, like in a baseball pitcher position. Hands kind of folded, my elbows resting atop my knees, my arms folded. Very peaceful, very tranquil. I remain very lucid in these states and in these places. It takes a lot to render me incapacitated. Even I had a 22-gram trip last May, May 5th of last year, and I remained very lucid, and I could speak. I had someone here who was present and sat with me just to make sure I kept breathing and everything, that I was okay. But I remain pretty okay. And there is some, I mean, there's some, I don't want to call it control, but it's in these words, like you start to use words that attempt to describe even the way you respond to the experience. I'm not controlling anything, it's just, you kind of learn what's happening, right? And you never get used to dying. But it feels good though, it feels amazing. And I don't know if it's anything like the physical exhaustion and end of the body, but what happens inside this experience, it feels very much like dying, like I would imagine dying is. It's a very stifling, kind of drowning, it's like this anxiety that kind of takes hold of your being, like what's happening? I'm disappearing. And not only when you can learn to be okay with that, but when you learn to embrace that, you are given keys to this thing, to this beautiful, beautiful thing. keep a big jug of water. I mean, I drink a lot of water anyway, but I keep a big jug of water by me when I do this, within arm's reach, because you will get very thirsty, and it's very easy not to notice how thirsty you're getting. Also, you know, depending on how physically immobilized you are, you may not be able to. It sounds silly, but to get up, go into the kitchen, get a glass, fill it with water, and then drink it, can be, depending on how much you've taken, can be too much. And all that to say, you're too distracted by everything else going on. That is one of the characteristics or hallmarks of doing this, and it increases with dosage, but confusion. Complete confusion about, and I mean like in the local sense, the immediate sense, like, say you like actually want to get up and get a glass of water, you can't figure out how, and then there's kind of more in like the cosmic sense, like the I guess the more poetic sense. Where am I going? Like, what am I doing? You know, there's a lot of confusion like that. It can be, and that can be. It's weird. It can be very hard to navigate. But again, when you I don't know. You can hear the crickets and the frogs. It's beautiful. It was kind of serendipitous because I have this Brian Eno album is in my library, and I had the library on shuffle this evening. I've never really given it a good listen, and it kind of came on this evening and caught me, and I was just like, what is this? This is beautiful. But I like listening to my library on shuffle. Especially when I'm involved in a task where I can't, or I'm less willing to grab my phone and do anything about it or change the song. At this point, I'm going to go and I'm going to sit on the couch because my feet and my back are starting to hurt. I'm going to go get a blanket first. Kind of tricky to walk and kind of navigate things at night. I don't have any night lights or anything like that, so it can be, to kind of see where you're going. Actually, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna come lay down in my bed. These are good visuals, and I might as well just lay in bed. Fuck it. Hell yeah. Okay. I'm gonna come lay down then. I'm gonna close that front door though, because it's fucking gonna be cold in here in the morning. the stats say, man?
It was a 61. A 61. Ja, 61.
Oh, crack die back! Yes! Okay, heading to the bed now. I'm currently vacuuming. Oh, let me get my water. Need my water. Oh, I stepped on the microphone. I'll also take this with me. And I will also turn this up. Mr. Lou, can you move, please, sweetheart? Can you move over, baby? Lou, come on. Move for daddy, please. Can you move over here, baby boy? Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you, sweet pie. Come over here and come back and see your daddy. Come lay down by daddy. Hi, sweet pea. Hey, baby boy. Mr. Utah, come here, baby boy. Come here, baby. Hop up here. Hop up here in the bed with daddy. Come on up, sweetheart. Hop up here. Hey, sweethearts. Come on up in the bed. Hop up here. Come on, baby boy. Oh, there it is. I'm like, what the fuck did I do with... Man. Okay. So it looks like it's about 1 a.m. now. I don't know how much time has passed, but... At this point, I know it's not going to get... No surprises, you know. It's not going to get any stronger or anything, no. I know what to expect at this point, so I'm good. I normally don't lay down this early, but I'm handling it pretty well. And just kind of nice, gentle visuals. Comfortable in bed. Got my 2 dogs here. Got my boys, so... all is right with the world. Hope y'all listening are doing well. All my love. All my love. This is very gentle, though. It's very gentle. This is usually at which point I feel like
It's a little bit sped up or expedited in this trip because, like I said, normally I don't come and lay down this this soon, but usually a little while after I lay down, I start to realize how horny I am. Psychedelics make me super horny. I know a lot of people get kind of so caught up with everything that's going on, and feeling like they're dying and all of this stuff, being born again. But I find in that I don't want to say after state, but because I found that you can really, I don't know, the mushroom experience can be really kind of boiled down to like 2 hours or less, honestly. Like, there's a lot of, even with acid, there's like these conversations about 12 hours, and what those time frames are really are the full, like, you're gonna have physiological effects, right, for 12 hours. Like, you're not gonna be able to sleep in the case of acid. I can never sleep on acid. But with mushrooms, they'll be, they'll be dilated pupils and stuff like that. But like, especially when you lemon tech it, when you powderize your mushrooms. I mean, I guess everyone will kind of give you, depending on how much you've eaten and all this stuff. Like, I haven't eaten anything. I've been fasting for. What was the last thing I ate? It's been a while. I want to say it was probably a good. I had 2 hard-boiled eggs, and that was probably 2 hours, 3 hours before the trip. So I always find that on a completely empty stomach, even if the trip is really hard and heavy, it really is like a roller coaster. It's almost over so fast you don't know what happened. It's not. I don't think it's quite as quick. It's not as obviously as fast as smoking DMT, right? But a mushroom trip is like 2 hours when you do it this way. It's a 2-hour experience. You're gonna spend the first hour or so on the way up, and then you'll peak, right around the hour mark, roughly. I've even, on an empty stomach, I've had it earlier than that. It's like, it's almost like the more I'm doing it, the faster and faster, because I'm becoming more sensitive to it, right? Like, I know each and every time more and more what to look for and my life experience is becoming more honed. See, and that gets to the root of these substances too. I don't feel like they're destroyers of the mind, body, and spirit. If anything, they're the opposite. So as time goes on, I become more and more sensitive to its vibrations, right? In a good way, but like I there's a familiarity that I can feel the instant I begin to feel its gentle hand. Closing my eyes now. A lot more like leaves and waves and very gentle kind of, like I can see like the branches almost like in the garden, right? and I'm like moving through it. I see these long strands, these tall stalks in space. And they're kind of just gently, like on a beautiful day, just kind of have a wonderful kind of, almost, it's like a ASMR type tingle, right? But like it's very sustained. For me, this was kind of a, because I knew there would be some degradation to the mushrooms I consumed. I knew that it would be an experience, but again, there, I can feel that punch is kind of missing from them. So I'm looking forward to consuming a new batch and just kind of feeling that vibrancy. The warmth and the love is always there. Can breathe very well right now. Windows are open. Can just gently hear the crickets, and I don't hear any frogs at this time. Brian Eno is still playing on the stereo. I turned it up a little bit because I'm in bed now, so I could hear it a little better through the house. Speakers and everything are in my living room. And I'm curled up in bed with my two dogs, and my eyes are open, and honestly the visuals are starting to kind of fade away at this point. But I have a very warm, gentle body buzz I can feel, kind of just moving throughout my body. That's what I love about the mushroom body load too, because it's very warm, and it's very organic feeling. Like when I would take a painkiller, I loved it at first, but there was very much this, I grew to learn and understand, or at least feel, that there's like this synthetic coldness to its like analgesic properties. The way it anesthetizes you, it's a very cold and self-involved feeling. The mushroom buzz, the mushroom vibration is very different. And I believe in a much more positive and healthy overall way, conducive to life. But the mushroom buzz, it moves throughout your body. And it's gentle, and it's like a ting. It's almost sometimes like you're being tickled. It's this cosmic tickle. Like I get to this point too when I'm laying in bed and I get comfortable. I feel like there's no ceiling, right? Like I have a fan it's off. Like the only thing I can see is the fan, but like I just don't feel like there's a ceiling anymore. And I don't see stars or anything, but I just feel like I'm in this great expanse. And I'm just floating in nothingness, right? And that, not so much right now, but at higher doses, time and space feel as though they disappear. And that's another thing I've really noticed. There's a stillness to everything. There's a stillness, and it's beautiful. It's like a perfectness, right? And my breathing slows and my heart slows in these moments, right? And it's like getting closer to this perfect nature. And this is talking about death. This is that when you can do this, and you can take mushrooms, and you can take these psychedelic drugs, these plant healers and things, and you can take higher doses and not only be okay with what's happening, but to give your heart to it, to surrender to it. It's a beautiful thing. There's a reason why mushrooms are prescribed to people at end of life therapy for terminal people that are dying. There's a reason why these substances are used as a form of bridging this life to something else. Just very gentle. Brain, still playing, and just very relaxed. I sleep incredibly well on these nights, but at the same time, I find that I kind of almost sleep with my eyes open for a long time. Eventually I'll close my eyes and pass out, but I find I kind of just, again, that's why I like it so dark, because you just lay in bed and you just like stare at a spot on the wall, and like you sleep with your eyes open, and you just, these visions, the body buzz, kind of, again, it's the same way the body buzz, or the visuals, kind of, it's not even waves, but it's almost like this, like the cosmic light catches it, like it like reflects, it kind of moves across your perceptive field anyway, which seems to kind of grow, at least when you're in the deep state. Like you start to take on more of this, it's not, I don't want to call it a God's eye view, but like it's more like a panorama, right? Like you have eyes that, almost like if you took a camera, you do like the panorama, you take a picture, like you can, it's not a complete 360, but your vision, your whole visual field kind of just opens up, right? And I think your perception becomes more amplified to everything. That's what I've noticed too, especially at higher doses, where the sound is very important. Sound is not only the sounds that you take in, but the sounds that you emit. And you start to have like this synesthesia I don't know, effects where sound actually begins to, McKenna talks about this a lot, like sound actually begins to build a landscape, right? Like it's crazy. You can like see sounds and how very nice. Just kind of felt a wave go through my body. Beautiful warm wave. So nice. Thank you. Starting to get a little sleepy at this point. I'll probably have one more slightly higher dose experience before I get a new before I try a fresh batch. I can't overstate how much degradation the substance will go through. Talking to someone else today about it, but I very much looking forward to tripping again more this summer. Having good deep mushroom specific trips. Kind of drifting off now. My eyes are closing, and I'm just about ready to fall asleep at this point. Again, I have no idea how long it's been. since the time of dosing, if I had to take an educated guess, I'd say that was an hour ago. When all is said and done, I'd say that was an hour ago. Maybe an hour, 10, 15, somewhere in there, but no more than that. No more than that. Wish I could make love right now. Making love sounds so good. I love sex on mushrooms. Like, assuming you know your partner and everything, and you're into their scent and their smell. Which I mean, I always am with my partners. I love that. I'm very primal, but oh my god, I just can't get enough of that. I love burying my face in ass, and just the musk and just the scent, and because your senses are so amplified and everything. Oh my god, it's so great. Love all that stuff. Making love on mushrooms is amazing. Oh. That's another indication to me that these mushrooms degraded substantially, as I didn't really get any yawns this evening. Yawning is a really common, probably, well, for me anyway, it's the most common thing. Like, I mean, yawn through your soul. And you do it constantly. You get to this point where, like, like you kind of you just exist in the state of a yawn. I'm not aware of any other drug or substance that causes the user to do that. LSD doesn't do that. Definitely gas later in the experience, usually, I find. But I think that's all she wrote for me anyway. I think that's about it. Yeah, that's how quickly it moves through you. Like the visions are, at this point, the visions are gone. And I'm completely fine. I mean, I was fine when I was peaking, but get back to this point of lucidity, being able to decipher everything. This is generally, honestly, my favorite part, my favorite point in the experience. And it's, for me, it's most noticeable at high doses. Because at higher doses, for me, there's... you know, like if I had doubled my dose or tripled my dose or something, I would do my best to continue narrating the experience, but I'm still very lucid, but it becomes difficult. It becomes difficult to speak, and not really. How do I say this? Not necessarily to speak, but to speak about what's happening. You know, it becomes very difficult to narrate the play-by-play, and it comes in faster than you can explain it. And there is no way to explain a lot of what you, because it's more than just seeing it. It's feeling it. It really uses your multitude of sensory information to. It's like it's an entire thing that happens to you. It's weird and it's beautiful. But and that's why I like this moment in the trip the most. After the peak and you get to this point where you're lucid again and you can kind of like, I don't know, make sense of what happened. Like at least you can talk about it, you know, with yourself. Like you just giggle about it and like what. I love that moment of self-reflection, you know, like right after like as soon as you regain the ability to, I don't know, like take control of some semblance of like your senses again or something. I don't know how to, once you're in control of your facilities. Because at higher doses, you're just along for the ride, right? Like you just surrender to it, which is a huge part of it. But it's mind bending, and there's no way to describe it. I mean, the best I can do is describe the way, kind of the way that it feels. Like, and I just say like it's like a dying experience. Like you die and you're born again, but that doesn't even begin to. I mean, to encapsulate it, it's a spiritual, holy thing. That's what it feels like to me. It is the hierophany. It is like coming into contact, like as a conduit for something greater than yourself, and like somehow dissolving into this greater thing. It's beautiful, the architecture and the grandiosity to the whole thing. Like this is not an accident. And you know, I don't attempt to change people's beliefs or minds or perceptions. You're free to believe what you want to believe, and I don't bother arguing with people. I try to spend more of my life listening. Because, like, I know what I have experienced and what I've seen. And whatever this thing is, this consciousness, wherever we come from, this design, it's beautiful. And we are a beautiful manifestation of this divine thing. And I know it's easy to lose sight of that on a day-to-day basis. I know it's easy to lose sight of that. And it's easy to lose feeling of that. Because I know that so often there's this feeling that life is, even when it's good, it's meaningless and it's pointless and there's nothing. That's what I love about these mushrooms. This isn't just a drug. It's like it's a conduit to something else. And if you can surrender to it and be open-minded, objective, it's sensitive too. I mean, I'm at this point where, and in the most humble way I can say this, I was born to do this. Not everyone can do this, and that's why it is bred in me a feeling of appreciation, gratitude, thankfulness for being the way that I am. I love myself. And it wasn't until I started tripping, and tripping hard, that I realized how much I love myself. It made me realize how special I am. I often say I feel like one of God's chosen children. I'm honored. But these mushroom experiences, they've been nothing but, I mean, you kind of run the gamut of, you kind of, I don't know, you kind of feel a little bit of everything, you know, at some point throughout the trips. There's a lot of emotion. Still just kind of a gentle warmth. I use that term a lot, gentle. The peak can feel a little aggressive. I mean, it can feel aggressive. And then afterward, and after you kind of adjust everything, there's this real gentleness, and a tranquility, and a stillness, which is what I love. That's what I love. After you get past the peak, which is mind-bending in itself, but once you get past the peak, there's this stillness to the experience. And this is where eternality comes in, though. Right? Like, there is no time anymore. You feel what it's like to stop time. And you remove yourself from the human equation. You just feel... And that's where, like, that... This is the same thing that these sensory deprivation tanks, these float tanks, attempt to achieve. This dark environment where the water and the air match the temperature of the body, and so you can no longer see yourself. You can't feel yourself, and the idea is that there's no sound, right? Or at least very, like, tranquil, almost like just like the Om, right? Like, you're not listening to Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon. You're just listening to, like, this Brian Eno type stuff. And you just get to feel foreverness. Like, it's this moment that it's bliss. It's absolute bliss to feel this tranquil stillness in the cosmos where nothing happens. I know it sounds weird, but and the more quiet and still everything becomes, and it feels like you're dying, and the visions increase. I remember a few summers ago, I was laying in this very position, and it was around dusk, and the sun was setting, and that tranquil moment was I was probably, at the 2-hour mark or something like that, maybe even closer to 3, and I could just hear children. Like, it was a nice summer's day, and just hear children, like, laughing, just playing off in the distance, and I was just, like, staring out the window with my head, like, just kind of, I was drifting off. I was staring out the window at the trees and the blue sky, and I could hear these kids laughing, and I was dying. Like, it felt like it was the most beautiful thing, this tranquil, still moment that stretched on forever. And like I was being cradled in the arms of this beautiful, beautiful thing. Even my dogs feel it when I do this, when I dose. It's like they somehow vicariously, like, it moves through them, like people have heard that, I don't know, this idea that the trip is only in your mind, right? Like, and what I mean is, it's not real. Like, it's just, I've heard psilocybin described as a defense mechanism on the part of the fungus. Like, however serendipitous it may be, this is nothing. But it doesn't matter, because until you've had this experience and you know what it feels like, even if it were nothing, it's like due to the experience, that it's almost like God made this so that I could perceive this and I could have, because God couldn't have this. And that's where like this idea of God waking up to itself. This happens. This is a very frequent theme inside the experience, that like you are God waking up to yourself. There's a very like that life was a dream, right? Like your daily, like the life that you knew, like of whatever your identity was in that person, like that was a dream, and now you're waking up to your true identity, which transcends that. I would always text my friends when as I was coming down, and I would say to them, in the middle of the night, like, I'm becoming a god. And this idea that the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God is within. And like I even to some degree this I don't know, because like I am God. I'm a conduit for God, right? Like that it moves through me. It's like the human body is a vessel, a container, right? And that for that 2 hours of mushroom experience, it like it moves through me. There to some degree there is subjectivity inside the trip, a little bit. But like I don't believe this. Everybody, you get past this point of tripping, and it's tinged with the personal artifacts of your own existence. And you transcend that, and you get into this place that we all go to inside the trip, where you realize you're God and you become one with God, and not like you the person, right? Like not you. I don't mean like you. Cause that's where that's where it can become confusing, right? Like it's weird because you come back from the trips, you wake up, and that's the weirdest thing for me. When I take really high doses, as you're drifting off to sleep, right? Like it's always, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's weird when you go back to being a person, right? Like. And you have a lot of this, like, what the fuck that all... The integration of the high dose and what it means, and I'm still figuring it out, and I don't know if there's any actual figuring it out. And when I say figuring it out, I don't even mean answers. Like, I want to know, what does it mean? I don't mean, like, so binary like that. But I just mean when you get, like, into the flow of it, right? Like... Because I mean, to embody what the experience teaches you, and that's what I'm saying. That I truly believe in the mushroom experience being the hierophany, this confrontation or this assimilation with the greater, and you can call it God, you can call it the universe, you can call it the cosmos. I mean, I don't know exactly what it is, because we get really hung up with terms and words, and I understand words and language are vehicles to get us where we want to go, but we get very hung up on these words. I mean, because what is God? Like, and it's one of those things, right, that we try to take these higher dimensional, we try to simplify it into our language, and it just doesn't down translate very well. Because even like in your mind, when I'm in your mind's eye, right? Like always attempting to visualize what this thing is. At least, I guess, I mean, of course I'm speaking personally. This is my own experience. Like even the Tao, right? Well, it sounds silly, but I always, like, my mind's eye, I always see the way that it's spelled, D-A-O. Like, I see the Tao. Like, I actually see the word. Because I think Tao is even, it's more ambiguous than God. Right? Like, because God, although not correct, I don't think, we still attach it with the image of a human to some degree, more or less. But the Tao is just it's just a word that stands in for the. I don't even know. Like, I mean, there is no way to. It even says in the Tao there is no way to perceive it. I feel like in these trips in the deep state, you do perceive it. It is like staring in. It's like coming face to face with this thing. And it's hard to stand in its presence. It's so radiant and beautiful. And I can never remember exactly what it looks like. Or what it is. And even talking about it, I don't want to say it invalidates it, but like once you create it in human language, like it falls apart and it loses this thing, like it bleh. This whole tripping thing, it's like a dress rehearsal, I feel, for death. It's like a simulation of sorts where you of course the physical body gets to survive. I really feel like at this point, and it's not even out of like this is what I want to happen. I can't be any more straight than this and sincere. I feel like this is what happens when you die. And I don't know if it happens for everyone. Like, because, and this is interesting, man. Like, I think this is where maybe we start even these concepts of heaven and hell, right? Like, because here's the thing. Like, I've read a lot of anecdotal, reports and stories of other people all over the internet of taking half of what I've taken and having really bad experiences. And even in good setting, I've read about people having really traumatic, horrible, nightmarish type experiences. And I feel like heaven is individual. How do I say this? And of course, it's an individual thing for each and every one of us, but it's not as simply binary as I believe in God or I don't. Like, the accepting, because even this thing of accepting Christ, like, it's a euphemism for surrender. In like this loop, right? Like this understanding, this acknowledgement of where you come from and like your cosmic father and mother. Like, this is what it means to accept Christ and God. Like, these are spiritual moments. And it happens for each and every one of us, I think. It's reflective in the trips. I don't know. It's an interesting thing. The whole thing, like, life is... Because, of course, you know, inside the experience, the questions go away. You know, but, of course, you know, questions arise after the experience about, like, if... Because the whole experience can take on this very solipsistic type. Where, like, everything exists only in your mind, right? And to some degree that's true. Like, everything is rendered in your head. I mean, it has... Life has externality to it, right? Like, your consciousness persists with or without mine, but it's my rendering an interpretation of your being that gives it meaning. It's a fucking weird thing, and like you break this down and you understand this, but it can get complicated and weird, because like if I'm God, like right now I'm laying in bed. And I know that, like, I acknowledge that there are other people in the world right now. But I also have to admit, in the most humble way I can say this, you know, the way I mentioned there's a very solipsistic type centric... Because it's weird, like, you're still confronted with these weird dualities and paradoxes of, like, I'm simultaneously everything, but I'm nothing. I'm no one. I'm God and I'm no one. There are definitely, I don't know. I mean, it's very much feels it's the hierophany, right? But I don't know. All I can say is there's very much a feeling of love there, and warmth. And as a friend of mine said to me recently about the experience, the way that it feels, it's like feels like I'm at home. Feels like I'm very at home here. And I'll admit, once I get back into it, there's a nostalgia for it. Like, I very much love being in this place. It's quiet, and it's tranquil, and it's peaceful, and it's beautiful. And I know a lot of people say, you can't stay there forever, right? Like, I understand. But that's why, I mean, I don't know. I aspire for greater. I know some people that say they have no desire to become a god. They have no desire to grow beyond this body and this life. It takes all kinds, and everyone's different, but I don't feel that way. This has wet my beak. And at the same time, you know, it's like... Again, this is the whole kind of fascinating part of the trips and the experiences that you are becoming God through the trips, right? Like I don't know how to describe it. It's like God emerging from this larva, like it's happening at the same time. Like God had to create everything in creation, including people, to ingest these mushrooms, to like have this like to realize itself, you know, this cosmic moment of self-reflection. It's fucking insane. to like this, to look in the mirror and giggle. It's beautiful. And again, that's why I don't know, these substances breed good, I think, good emotions and sentiments, and they're spiritually, I say healthy, but it's integral. I think it's deeply important. And I think it's an I don't know. It's like I want to say that these experiences are an antidote to a sick world, but that's the thing though. Like, the world is exactly the way that it should be, and I know that's hard to hear, but the world doesn't need to be saved. Like, it's these moments laying in bed late at night on a mushroom trip where, like, you are saved. In the serenity of all things, like, and it's like, and that's the thing, at the end of these trips, there's this tremendous expression of thank you. Thank you for life. Thank you for death. Thank you for birth and renewal. The loop, the cosmic loop, I suppose. And you I mean, it makes sense, right? I don't know. If you, at a cosmic level, consciousness building itself, right? Like, growing. Even before I ever took psychedelics, I was all about self-reflection. Like I'm doing now, but not recording myself. I just talk to myself for hours and have conversations. Like, wouldn't ask myself questions, but you just, like, think out loud and postulate about life. And I mean, and that's the whole thing too. Like, when you start to get to this fractal nature of life, right? Like, if you what are fractals? I mean, fractals are things that, patterns, organs that have the same dimensions and definition at all scales across time and space, right? Right? The fractal zoom. So this idea that, and that's where this, like, as above, so below, as it is on earth and heaven and all this stuff, right? Like the kingdom of God is within. Beautiful moments. They're nirvana-like. I mean, I try to, these words that describe, like, the apex, right? This radiant, these radiant moments. The truth of the matter is, since I've started doing this, taking mushrooms and psychedelics, I can't stop talking about it. It's not even necessarily that I'm encouraging people to do it, and I don't discourage people from doing it. But just talking about it, because it's so profound. And it's so beautiful. At this point, though, I think I've said everything I can say, at least for the night, on the experience. Getting kind of tired. I'm curious, though. I want to see how long it's been. It's 2 o'clock. Oh my god, is that bright? Oh, is that bright? That was a mistake. I should have turned my night app down. I usually always try to turn that on, especially if I'm tripping. Let's see, where's the timer at? Okay, well I guess I've been talking for a while too, but 2 hours and 20 minutes since I dosed. That did not feel like 2 hours and 20 minutes at all. What a beautiful night. I can hear the frogs again. The only problem I find at this point in the experience is that generally I'm starving at this point. Like, and it's one of those moments where I could oh my god, I'm ready to go to sleep. You're exhausted from the trip. But you just burn so many calories. Especially if you had, not eaten anything for a couple hours before, which is generally a wise thing. If you're only taking a couple of grams, it's not a big deal. But if you're doing anything above 5, it's probably not a bad idea not to eat anything. Also, just for the sake of disrupting because you want everything to digest evenly, and there's no sense having a big hamburger in your stomach and then 30 minutes later, fucking yeah, it does make a lot of sense. Kind of torn. I don't know. Go between a cross between a big juicy burger and a just having a beautiful ass on my face right now. I could go for either one. Oh. No, definitely a burger. And some curly fries. Starving. I called a burger place earlier because normally they're open till 9, and I called at 8:30, and I got their answering machine, and they told me about their COVID hours, and they close at 8. And I was so bummed. I was like, son of a bitch. I wanted that sweet, sweet green olive burger with a side of curly fries. Oh my god. I got hard-boiled eggs in the fridge, but I gotta be honest, it doesn't sound terribly good at this point. Some hard-boiled eggs and salt isn't too bad, but I'm just like meat and potatoes right now. I'm feeling like a fucking pot roast and some mashed potatoes and gravy and carrots and oh god. I think it's hard for a lot of people to, and whether it's sex or eating, I think it's hard for most people to just get past or work their way through the phenomenon to even acknowledge feelings like horniness or hungriness. But, and I'll admit, the more I've done it and the more just aware and hypersensitive you become to your body's needs, and just, I don't know, just hypersensitive to everything. You just, it's almost like, you ever try to listen to a song and isolate parts, you know, of the group or the band or the orchestra or whatever it is you're listening to, and just zero in on a particular instrument or sound, and the way you can really isolate it if you try. It's like that way about life. I got the hard-boiled eggs. I don't want anything cold, though. Even fruit and like I think fruit is more of an acid thing for me anyway. It's good to have fruit around. But with mushrooms, it's like I don't know. At the end of it, I just want something like just dense, starving. I need to have an egg though. I need to get some calories and some nutrients and stuff. Well, folks, I'm gonna cut the recording here, but thank you for listening. Thank you for coming along with me on this journey. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you could be a part of it. Kind of just sharing with me on these thoughts and all this crazy shit. And I hope that at some point in your life that you can experience this too, because it's a beautiful thing. And that's something that, I don't know, at some point from cradle to grave, I think a lot of people have never experienced this. I think most people have never experienced this. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that have, but I think most people have never experienced this. And I can only be grateful for what I have experienced and all the wonderful things. I try not to focus on the negative, you know? Get bogged down and thinking. There's this passage in the Tao about addressing evil directly. You never address evil directly. And it isn't just evil, it's just